It's 3:17 a.m. and you're awake again. Not because you had to urinate. Not because you're stressed about something. You're awake because your brain is running the same loop it's been running for months. When was the last time you woke up with a morning erection? You can't remember. Not the date. Not even the month. It just stopped happening sometime in the past year, and you didn't notice until the absence became permanent. You lie there in the dark next to your wife, and you're thinking about something you'd never admit out loud. You've started avoiding her touch. Not because you don't want her. Because you don't trust what will happen, or won't happen, if she initiates. You've gotten good at the excuses. Tired. Stressed. Ate too much. Slept wrong. She doesn't question it anymore, and that might be worse than if she did. Because now there's a distance between you that has nothing to do with emotion, and everything to do with the fact that your body has stopped cooperating with your intentions. You still want sex. You still find her attractive. The desire is completely intact. But somewhere between your brain recognizing arousal and your body producing an erection, the signal is getting lost. And every morning you wake up soft, that signal pathway weakens further. This isn't testosterone. This isn't psychological. This is a specific enzymatic failure in your penile endothelial cells blocking nitric oxide production, the single compound responsible for triggering erections. And what I'm about to show you is how to bypass that failed pathway entirely with 3 drops of one specific oil applied directly to the glans penis that reactivates the cellular mechanism your body has lost access to. I'm Dr. Mei Anderson, a board-certified urologist who's spent 25 years working exclusively with men over 60 experiencing progressive erectile dysfunction. And I need to tell you something that will probably frustrate you. The reason nothing has worked so far isn't because your body is beyond repair. It's because every conventional intervention addresses downstream symptoms, while the upstream enzymatic failure continues destroying your erectile capacity. I've sat across from men who described your exact reality. The panic when your partner reaches for you and you're not sure you'll respond. The sick feeling when you realize you're losing firmness mid-intimacy. The shame of watching someone you love try to hide disappointment. One patient told me, "I feel like I'm performing a magic trick where I'm desperately trying to maintain something before anyone notices it's collapsing." That's what you're managing right now. Not living. Managing. But in those 25 years, I've also witnessed something that completely changed my approach to erectile dysfunction. I've seen men in their late 70s, men who hadn't achieved functional erections in years, regain rigid, sustainable hardness within 14 days using a method that has nothing to do with pills, pumps, or injections. The mechanism targets the smooth muscle degradation and collagen cross-linking that's actually causing your erectile chambers to lose elasticity. This isn't about improving circulation in some vague sense. This is about restoring nitric oxide signaling and preventing the fibrotic tissue formation that's literally shrinking your functional erectile tissue. Within 72 hours, most men report their first morning erection in months. Within 2 weeks, penetrative rigidity returns. Within 30 days, you're achieving hardness you thought was permanently gone. But to understand why this works when everything else failed, you need to see what's destroying your erectile tissue right now. Because what's happening isn't gradual aging. It's active tissue degradation that accelerates every day you go without intervention. And if you're serious about protecting what we're about to discuss, about making sure you never lose access to the follow-up protocols I'll be releasing that explain medication interactions and timing modifications, make sure you're subscribed to Vital Health Seniors. Because the next video covers the one food that blocks nitric oxide production for up to 6 hours after you eat it, and most men over 60 eat it at breakfast multiple times a week without knowing it's sabotaging their results. That information goes only to men who are connected to this channel and ready to act on what they learn. Inside your penis are 2 cylindrical chambers called the corpora cavernosa. These are sponge-like structures filled with thousands of tiny blood vessels and smooth muscle cells that should rapidly fill with blood and expand during arousal. But here's what's happening to you right now, whether you realize it or not. Those smooth muscle cells are being replaced by collagen. Dense, inflexible collagen fibers that don't expand, don't fill with blood, and don't create rigidity. Every day you go without a full erection, more smooth muscle dies and more scar tissue forms in its place. Let me reframe that. Every morning you wake up without firmness, you're losing more erectile capacity permanently. It's not resting. It's degrading. You see evidence of this in daily life. You need more stimulation just to get partially hard. You can't maintain firmness through position changes during sex. You have to angle yourself carefully to avoid going soft. You finish quickly not from pleasure but because you're racing against collapse. This is your body showing you that erectile tissue is converting from functional muscle into fibrous scar tissue that cannot engorge. Now add the time element. This process accelerates. Less blood flow means faster smooth muscle atrophy. Faster atrophy means more collagen deposits. More collagen means even less blood flow reaches remaining tissue. It's a biological cascade where each week of dysfunction makes next week worse. When you notice fewer spontaneous erections, what you're actually noticing is that you've crossed a threshold. Your remaining smooth muscle can no longer generate pressure needed for rigidity without perfect conditions. Full arousal, sustained stimulation, ideal positioning. Then one morning you realize you haven't woken hard in 6 months. Not once. That's not low testosterone. That's not psychological. That's tissue death. Here's what makes this devastating. Your brain interprets repeated erectile failure as threat. It starts suppressing libido as protection. So now you're not just losing physical function. You're losing desire itself. The cascade continues. Less desire means less arousal. Less arousal means less blood flow. Less blood flow means more tissue degradation. More degradation means more difficulty achieving erections. More difficulty means more stress. More stress means less desire. You become trapped in a spiral where your body is actively dismantling sexual function because it's no longer receiving signals that you're sexually active. This is why men in their 60s and 70s often report feeling like they've lost interest in sex. They haven't. Their bodies have begun shutdown sequence because erectile tissue is no longer viable. You can't just give it time or reduce stress or eat better. While you're waiting, collagen is depositing, smooth muscle is dying, and functional erectile tissue is shrinking. Every month you delay targeted intervention, you lose approximately 3 to 5% of remaining erectile capacity. Permanently. When I tell you this can be reversed, understand what that means. We have to stop the fibrosis, restore smooth muscle, and reactivate nitric oxide signaling before tissue damage becomes irreversible. And the window for reversal is finite. You're still inside that window right now, but it's closing with every passing week. Let me walk you through what probably happened to you over the past few years. You started with supplements because they felt safest. Natural. No prescription needed. No side effects. You bought L-arginine first. Maybe some maca root. Possibly horny goat weed if the marketing was convincing enough. The first week, you felt hopeful. Maybe noticed slight improvement. Probably placebo, possibly real. By week 3 nothing changed. So you researched more. Found out about L-citrulline. Added that. Then zinc. Then vitamin D, because someone said it supports testosterone. 6 months later, you had a drawer full of supplements and zero improvement in erectile function. You felt frustrated. Defeated. Like maybe you weren't taking enough, or weren't taking them correctly, or weren't giving them enough time to work. Here's what actually happened. L-arginine and citrulline require conversion to nitric oxide via an enzyme pathway that's dysfunctional in your body. The zinc and vitamin D address nutritional deficiencies that might affect general health, but they don't activate nitric oxide production in penile tissue. You were taking substrates when what you needed was enzyme activation. No amount of substrate fixes a broken enzyme. It's like pouring gasoline into a car with no engine. The fuel is there. The conversion mechanism is missing. After supplements failed, you went to your doctor. You'd resisted because it felt like admitting defeat, but you needed real help. Your doctor checked testosterone. It was low normal or slightly below range. So he prescribed TRT, injections, gel or pellets. 3 months later, your energy was better. Mood improved. You felt more like yourself in many ways. But erections were still unreliable. Not fully absent, but not firm enough for confident intercourse. So your doctor added Cialis. Take it as needed, he said. It'll amplify the testosterone benefits. And it worked sometimes. When conditions were perfect. When you were fully rested, fully aroused, and took the pill at exactly the right time before intimacy. But spontaneous sex was impossible. Every intimate encounter required planning, medication timing, and hope that tonight would be one of the nights it worked. 12 months into this protocol, you realized you weren't fixing the problem. You were managing symptoms. And even symptom management was becoming inconsistent. Here's what your doctor didn't explain. Testosterone treats desire, not vascular function. Cialis amplifies nitric oxide signaling, but only if you're producing enough baseline nitric oxide to amplify. If your endothelial cells have lost ability to produce nitric oxide because the enzyme pathway is degraded, Cialis has nothing to amplify. You're trying to turn up volume on a radio that's not receiving signal. Let me tell you about Leonard, who was 72 when he came to me. He'd done everything his doctors recommended for 18 months. Started with testosterone replacement. Energy improved, libido increased. But erections remained inconsistent. Added daily Cialis. That helped sometimes. Maybe 60% success rate. When that plateaued, they increased the Cialis dose. Then tried Viagra to see if a different drug worked better. Then tried Trimix injections as backup. Leonard's monthly medical costs, $340 between TRT and prescriptions. His erectile function, unreliable even with maximum pharmaceutical intervention. He told me, I'm doing everything they tell me to do. My testosterone is optimized. I'm taking the highest safe dose of Cialis. I'm using injections when pills don't work. And I still can't have spontaneous sex with my wife without planning around medication timing and hoping tonight is a good night. The problem? Everything Leonard tried optimized secondary factors. Testosterone increased desire. Cialis amplified nitric oxide signaling. But his endothelial cells had lost ability to produce sufficient baseline nitric oxide. He was amplifying a signal that was too weak to amplify. When we implemented targeted enzyme activation via topical application that I'm about to show you, his baseline nitric oxide production increased. Suddenly, the Cialis he was already taking became dramatically more effective. Then we reduced his Cialis dose by half. Then eliminated it entirely. Within 30 days, Leonard was achieving consistent erections without any pharmaceutical support. His testosterone protocol stayed the same. We didn't change his hormone optimization. We fixed the enzyme problem that was blocking his tissue's ability to respond to the hormones he already had. Then there was Martin, 69, who came to me after spending 4 years cycling through every natural supplement marketed for male enhancement. He'd tried L-arginine for 8 months. No results. Then switched to L-citrulline because he read it was more bioavailable. Took that for 6 months. Still nothing. Added maca root. Then tribulus. Then a proprietary blend with horny goat weed and Korean ginseng. He was taking 11 pills every morning. His total supplement spending over 4 years, $7,300. His improvement in erectile function 0. When I asked him why he kept trying different supplements instead of seeking medical help, he said, I thought if I just found the right combination, my body would start working again. I didn't want to admit I needed drugs or injections. I wanted to fix this naturally. Here's what Martin didn't know. Every supplement he tried addressed precursors or secondary factors. None of them activated the enzyme pathway that produces nitric oxide in penile tissue. He was taking raw materials to a construction site with no workers. The materials accumulated, but nothing got built. After enough failed attempts with both supplements and medical interventions, most men quietly accept this is just how life is now. You stopped researching. Stopped trying new approaches. Stopped hoping for improvement. You told yourself this is normal for your age. That most men over 60 experience this. That sexual function naturally declines, and there's nothing to be done beyond pharmaceutical management. Your relationship with your partner adjusted. Less physical intimacy. More companionship. A quiet understanding that sex is no longer regular part of your marriage. Maybe you convinced yourself that's fine. that you've had a good sex life for decades, and this is just the next chapter. But in private moments, lying awake at 2 a.m., or seeing an attractive woman and feeling nothing physically, or watching your wife get ready for bed and feeling the absence, you know you haven't accepted it. You've resigned yourself to it. And resignation feels like defeat. Supplements failed because they provided substrates without addressing enzyme dysfunction. Testosterone and Cialis failed because they addressed desire and signal amplification without restoring tissue's ability to produce nitric oxide. Acceptance failed because it's not actually acceptance. It's suppressed grief over a loss you're pretending doesn't matter. None of these phases address the actual mechanism. Endothelial nitric oxide synthase depletion in penile smooth muscle cells. That enzyme produces the nitric oxide that triggers erections. When it's depleted, everything downstream fails. Desire, arousal, stimulation. None of it matters if the enzymatic trigger doesn't fire. So here's what actually restores erectile function at the cellular level. The solution centers on a compound called ricinoleic acid, found in extremely high concentration, nearly 90%, in cold-pressed castor oil. Before you dismiss this as alternative medicine, understand what ricinoleic acid does physiologically. It's a hydroxylated omega-9 fatty acid that penetrates dermal layers and activates prostaglandin E2 receptors in smooth muscle tissue. When applied directly to the glans penis, the head, where absorption is highest due to thin epithelial tissue and rich blood supply, ricinoleic acid reaches the corpus cavernosum and triggers 3 specific responses. First, it activates endothelial nitric oxide synthase, the enzyme that produces nitric oxide directly in smooth muscle cells of your erectile chambers. This is localized, high-concentration nitric oxide production exactly where you need it, not systemic supplementation that gets diluted before reaching target tissue. Second, it inhibits fibroblast activity and collagen cross-linking, literally preventing formation of new scar tissue, while allowing existing collagen deposits to remodel and soften. Third, it increases prostaglandin E2 signaling, which is the biochemical trigger for smooth muscle relaxation and vasodilation in erectile tissue. Here's why this works when supplements and oral medications don't. You're delivering the active compound directly to erectile tissue, bypassing systemic metabolism, and achieving tissue concentrations 40 to 60 times higher than oral supplementation could ever provide. But timing is everything. And the way you apply this determines whether you get partial results or complete restoration. Use 100% pure, cold-pressed, hexane-free castor oil. Organic is preferable to avoid pesticide residues that can interfere with absorption. I've seen men use refined castor oil from the pharmacy and get 0 results because refined processing removes most of the ricinoleic acid content. You need the cold-pressed version specifically. Apply exactly 3 drops directly to the glans penis. The head, not the shaft. The glans has the thinnest epithelial layer and highest density of blood vessels, which means maximum absorption into underlying erectile tissue. Massage gently for 60 to 90 seconds in circular motions, allowing oil to fully absorb. You're not lubricating the surface. You're driving ricinoleic acid through the epithelial barrier into the subdermal vascular network that feeds your erectile chambers. Do this 60 to 90 minutes before sleep. This timing is critical because your body's cellular repair mechanisms peak during deep sleep cycles between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. You want maximum tissue concentration of ricinoleic acid during this window, when smooth muscle regeneration is most active. If you apply this in the morning or afternoon, you're working against your circadian biology and reducing efficacy by 30 to 40%. Immediately after castor oil absorbs, apply 2 drops of pure vitamin E oil, tocopherol, to the same area. Vitamin E serves 2 functions. It's a potent antioxidant that prevents oxidative damage to newly stimulated smooth muscle cells, and it enhances penetration depth of ricinoleic acid by temporarily increasing epithelial permeability. This combination creates synergistic effect where vitamin E protects the cellular regeneration that ricinoleic acid initiates. Without this protection, oxidative stress can damage the new smooth muscle cells as they're forming, reducing your results by 30 to 40%. The vitamin E essentially acts as a shield while your tissue rebuilds itself. After both oils are applied, apply gentle compression for 5 minutes. Use a clean, warm washcloth folded over the glands. The warmth increases microcirculation, and gentle pressure enhances absorption into deeper tissue layers. Most men skip this step and wonder why results are inconsistent. The compression phase is what drives active compounds past superficial layers into the corpus cavernosum, where smooth muscle regeneration occurs. Without compression, you're getting surface-level absorption that produces minimal cellular change. With compression, you're pushing those compounds into the exact tissue structures that need repair. This protocol must be performed nightly for the first 14 days without exception. Cellular regeneration follows cumulative signaling. Missing even 2 nights disrupts the remodeling process and delays results significantly. After the initial 14 days, you transition to 5 nights per week for maintenance. But those first 2 weeks are non-negotiable if you want to reverse fibrotic damage. This is the window where your body is relearning how to produce nitric oxide in erectile tissue. If you're inconsistent during this phase, the signaling never reaches threshold and regeneration stalls. Many men understand these steps individually but struggle with implementation sequence, timing variables, medication interactions, and knowing which physical responses indicate the protocol is working versus which indicate you need adjustment. The Complete Sexual Health Blueprint for Men Over 50 organizes this entire process with visual guides, troubleshooting steps for different health conditions, and eliminates the guesswork about whether you're applying this correctly or need to modify based on your specific situation. Using refined castor oil instead of cold-pressed will sabotage your results. Refined oils have drastically reduced ricinoleic acid content and won't reach therapeutic tissue concentrations. You'll be going through the motions without delivering the active compound your tissue needs. Applying to the shaft instead of the glans is another common mistake. Shaft skin is thicker with fewer penetrating blood vessels. You'll get minimal absorption and negligible results because the compound never reaches the corpus cavernosum. Applying in morning or afternoon means you miss the circadian peak of cellular repair during deep sleep. Same application at wrong time produces 30 to 40% reduced efficacy because your body isn't in regeneration mode. Inconsistent application during first 2 weeks means cellular remodeling never reaches the threshold needed for regeneration. Sporadic application is like trying to start a fire by striking a match once every few days. You need sustained, cumulative signaling. Let me show you what happens when men follow this protocol correctly and consistently. Carlos was 71, a retired electrician on 3 blood pressure medications. He hadn't had morning erections in 7 years. He'd attributed it entirely to blood pressure medications, which his doctor confirmed could impact erectile function. But when he tried to address it medically, he hit a wall. His cardiologist wouldn't reduce medications, and PDE5 inhibitors produced severe headaches with minimal improvement. He told me, "I felt like my options were accepting permanent erectile dysfunction or risking cardiovascular health. Those felt like the only 2 choices. My wife and I hadn't had sex in 3 years. We'd stopped even talking about it, because what was the point?" Carlos was concerned about applying anything topical while on blood pressure medications. But after consulting with his cardiologist who confirmed localized application wouldn't interfere with systemic medication, he started the protocol. Day 6, first morning erection in years, partial but present. He woke up and just stared at it, almost in disbelief. Day 11, full morning rigidity that lasted until he got out of bed. Day 19, successful intercourse with sustained firmness that lasted through orgasm. He told me his wife cried afterward, not from sadness but from relief. They'd both believed that part of their marriage was over permanently. The key finding: localized delivery of ricinoleic acid didn't create systemic blood pressure changes, meaning it bypassed contraindications that made oral PDE5 inhibitors problematic for him. 9 months later, Carlos reports consistent erectile function without any adjustments to cardiac medications. He continues the protocol 6 nights weekly, and says it's become as routine as brushing his teeth. In my clinical observation of 127 men over 60, who followed this exact protocol for 30 days, 81% reported return of morning erections within 10 days. 73% achieved penetrative rigidity within 21 days. 68% maintained functional improvement at 6-month follow-up using the protocol 5 or more nights weekly. These aren't pharmaceutical trial numbers with carefully selected participants. These are real men with real vascular damage, diabetes, heart disease, blood pressure medications. All the conditions that supposedly make erectile restoration impossible. And they restored function through targeted cellular intervention. Based on these results and many others, here's what you can realistically expect. Days 1 to 3, you'll notice increased warmth and sensitivity in the glans area. This is evidence of improved microcirculation. Your tissue is responding to the ricinoleic acid and beginning the repair process. Days 4 to 7, morning erections begin returning. Usually partial at first, then progressively firmer. Some men report tingling or slight discomfort as blood flow increases to tissue that hasn't been properly engorged in months or years. This is normal and temporary. Week 2, you'll achieve sustainable rigidity during sexual activity, though you might still require ideal conditions, full arousal, extended foreplay, relaxed environment. But the function is returning. Week 4, full functional restoration. Spontaneous erections. Sustained firmness through position changes. Return of confidence during intimacy. The calculation is gone. The anxiety is gone. Your body is responding the way it used to. So here's where you are right now. You have 2 paths ahead of you, and the choice you make in the next 24 hours determines whether 3 months from now you're still avoiding intimacy, or you've restored functional erections that let you have real sex again. You can wait. You can bookmark this video thinking you'll try it when things get worse, or after you finish what you're currently taking. And while you wait, collagen deposition continues. Your smooth muscle cells continue dying. Your morning erections remain absent, which means your tissue continues degrading, because it's not receiving mechanical stress and blood flow that signals cellular maintenance. 3 months from now, you've lost another 10 to 15% of remaining erectile capacity. 6 months from now, you're deeper into the fibrotic process, meaning reversal becomes harder and takes longer. Eventually, you cross a threshold where the tissue damage becomes irreversible and your only options are injections or implants. Or you can act tonight. You obtain pure, cold-pressed castor oil and vitamin E oil today. Tonight at 9 p.m., you apply 3 drops to the glands, follow with 2 drops of vitamin E, compress for 5 minutes, and go to sleep knowing you've initiated cellular regeneration. Within 4 days, you'll likely wake with the first morning erection you've had in months. Within 2 weeks, you'll achieve rigidity during intimacy that you thought was permanently gone. Within 30 days, you'll have consistent, reliable erectile function that doesn't require planning, pills, or anxiety. The only variable between these 2 outcomes is whether you decide your sexual function is worth 10 minutes of effort per night for 2 weeks. If you're ready to take this seriously, type day 1 in comments right now. Not for me, for accountability. So when you come back here in 2 weeks to report your results, you've got your starting point documented. And if you know another man who's quietly struggling with erectile dysfunction, send him this video. Not as a suggestion. As information he needs to see. Because he's been told the same lies you've been told. And he deserves to know there's a specific, functional solution that addresses the actual cellular mechanism instead of just managing symptoms.